Hey guys, welcome back to another Doc Talks. I am Dr. Booth.
I'm Dr. Betcher.
We're going to be talking to you about ankle sprains today. All the things you need to know about what we do to rule them out, what's most common, and then progressions to get you from pain to performance. Super big step there. We want you guys to know that there are guides to getting you from pain to performance, and a lot of times they are skipped or overlooked. So listen up if you've ever had an ankle sprain and you're either still struggling with it or want to have a better thought process on how to get you out of pain. So first, the most common sprain is what's called an inversion sprain. It's real typical. You'll have a step and your foot will turn inward and you'll sprain the outside portion of your ankle. So what happens?
Yeah, so what happens is, like Dr. Booth was saying, a lot of times you're stepping that toes pointing towards the ground and then you roll it outward. So basically the tissues that get most stressed, strained, or injured in that is something called your ATFL, anterior talofibular ligament.
Nice.
You do not need to memorize that, but that is usually the tissue that gets strained, pulled in that scenario. So you put a lot of force into that ankle and just gets stretched out, and now it's kind of loosey-goosey. In addition, it's hurting, it's painful, and then hey, we got to rehab it afterwards. So
those are some of the structures. There's also a couple of other muscles on the outside of the ankle that can really be affected. So we always want to test those too. We won't bore you with all the sciencey names of all the muscles, but just know there's a group of muscles on the outside of your leg that control the ability to do this, and that's typically one that gets irritated. So looking at what's next, we need to figure out ruling out fractures or other instabilities of the ankle. As docs, we will look at a couple of structures, the inside and the outside balls of the ankle. Very important. We do some tap tests. We go through some range of motion. And honestly, if we see a patient just either walking in or crutching in, that kind of tells us how advanced the injury might be. But tap tests are very important. Is there anything else you really like to do?
sometimes I like to have people kind of drop on their heels, kind of a little bit more of a jarring force too, and just see, hey, is that bothersome? And then again too, that might make us look more towards, hey, do you need to evaluate even more so into the fractured realm? Yeah,
and I think that definitely could give us a idea if maybe it was a high ankle sprain though too, so it would kind of pull on those bones. The inside and outside ball of the ankle can get pulled apart, and that can be called a high ankle sprain, so we need to evaluate for that too. But those are some of the things that we would evaluate to reduce the risk of treating a fracture, because we don't necessarily treat a fracture when it's fresh. We would treat it afterwards, wait till the bone tissue has healed and start to regain some of our ranges of motion. But next, we want to give you guys an idea of how to progressively load the ankle. If you don't have a fracture, there's no need for surgical intervention or casting or anything like that, then we need to start figuring out a rehab plan on how to get your ankle moving again. So first thing, we need to get range of motion back. Full range of motion is super important so that you can actually train later on your full range of motion. This is what's called an ankle car. It's very popular. Taking my shoe back off again. We're going to go underneath the outside portion of the leg, and we're going to trap, either go to the elbow or to the bicep on the other one, lock the leg in place. This just gets our knee to not swivel and move as much as it wants to, and we isolate just the ankle. So from here, you try to think of your toes and drawing the biggest circle you can with your toes. So draw the toes up and then making a huge circle out. Notice that when we talked about some of the muscle on the outside of the leg, as I'm pulling my foot out, you might feel a little bit of tenderness there, especially the first couple times that you're doing some of this. It's okay. We got to go slow, methodical movements, and you might feel kind of rigid and shaky. Try to smooth that out as you do more and more reps. Go through that whole circle, press the toes down, come all the way up the other side. You might feel a big stretch because this is the mechanism of injury. We turned our foot in, and we had that sprain on the outside of the ankle. So you might feel a little bit of stretch and tenderness there, and complete the circle. If we go one way, we want to make sure that we go the opposite way as well. So going down, circling through, again, using the the toes as much as you can, splay them, make them wide, and then all the way back to the top end of that circle. So that's your full range of motion. If you feel like it's limited, keep on working on full range of motion until you feel like you're back to your normal range at the ankle. Then we get into isometrics.
Yeah, so after making sure we're trying to keep that range of motion in the ankle as best as possible, so really good initially when they're swelling and just kind of getting some movement back in that joint, we start with isometric exercises. And that means that basically that muscle is not shortening or lengthening. You're keeping that muscle, that joint, your body in one position, but still working it and still making it have to work against a force. So with that inversion ankle sprain, what I like to start with is if you have a band at home, okay, you're gonna wrap it around the injured foot. I'm also gonna step over it with my opposite foot here. Okay, now make note, my right foot, in this case, is my injured leg, and it's not going to move at all. It's just trying to keep this solid position. And now my left leg is going to add force as my right leg stays as is. So I can pull out to the side like this with my left, making sure my right is resisting it and not moving. I can then also put your ankle into a position different, kind of similar to the mechanism of injury, and do the same thing. It's not moving, but I just changed the angle of that joint, and I'm still working it isometrically. I can then pull my ankle up towards me, and again, do a few more reps with my ankle staying in the same position. It's not moving, but I'm working on strength. So really, really good in how we want to start out exercises isometrically, not moving the ankle, but it's resisting an outside force. When we start to now get into concentric or eccentric, meaning that now you're going to see that limb, joint, body part go through a move. I'm going to do the same setup. My right leg is in the loop, my left leg is out here, but now I'm actually going to do some moves with the injured ankle. So right now, I'm just scooping in and out, in and out. A very good one to do with this injury. You can also just simply tie around the ankle and do things as point those toes away from you and vice versa towards you as well. But that's step 2 after you've worked it isometrically. The last one that we really like to see to start challenging people, especially getting people back to whatever activity they're needing to get back to, is working on the balance and proprioception in that ankle.
Yeah, so balance and proprioception can start really easy, and don't make this complicated. A lot of people stand on balls and all this crazy stuff. What do we usually walk on? We walk on the ground. We need to be stable on the ground, so let's practice being stable on the ground. Again, taking some shoes off, letting our toes work a little bit here. Think of the ground with some hands of the clock. So let's go, if this was my affected side, and I'm trying to really stabilize that, I'm going to reach forward, making my ankle work, and then come back. As we feel more confident, then I can lift my foot and keep it off the ground, going forward, going 45 degrees out to the side, going 90 degrees out to the side, going 45 back behind us, and then finally all the way down to almost like a curtsy squat, so reaching across and as far as we can. That's going to really make your foot work a ton. So think about the dials on the clock, and then try to hit all of those little movements as much as you can to make your ankle work. Then we need to look at reactive training. So Dr. K is going to be on the wall. She is very excited for this because she's an athlete. So she'll be on one foot, and then reactively she's going to throw a ball and then bounce it off the wall, seeing if she can stay stable off of that ankle. Very reactive, very functional. Now she doesn't have control of where the ball is really going, so she has to have her ankle respond very quickly. So that is a version of our balance drills. So hopefully you guys figured out a little bit of our process, or you guys can glean a little bit of information on how to get from pain to performance. If you guys have any questions, let us know, because we want to treat you guys' ankles and get you guys better. Reach out to us at 702-558-2151. Let us know. Thanks, guys.